Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is red.olaughlin on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network to a worldwide audience. Today, I'm honored to have a guest I met just recently. We were networking on the same event, and his background was such that, I really need to get to know this guy a little bit better. And he started talking about mindset. He started talking about technology, artificial intelligence. But the thing that hooked me, the one that really caught me the most, was his approach and his development creation of improvements to alternate options for mental health improvement. And one of those is just an app on a phone that can almost tell you exactly what your mental health status is of that second. And unless I misinterpreted that, we'll find out here briefly. But Michael Berman is retired. He's up in New Hampshire. Yeah, New Hampshire, if I remember right. And he's joining us today on The Wise Ones, and we're going to get a chance to learn a little bit about a lot of things in a very short period of time. So please join me, Michael.
Red, thanks for having me. I'm very grateful for your interest, and it was great meeting you on the networking event, and that you caught a few things that I was interested about and passionate about. And yeah, let's jump into that. And I will tell you, I think probably if I'm going to get any say here, we'll control it and tell you a little bit more about the mental health app after I tell you a little bit about me and my background. Does that work?
That'll work fine. I think that there's several areas to go into. And I definitely want to get into that binaural beat routine that you talked about. I think I used that in a marketing video. But you're retired. You have been for a while. Your background is in coding and in basically paper security to digital security. Why don't you spend about a minute just kind of bringing us up to date on how did you get to be retired?
Well, I'm going to correct you a tiny bit. I'm retired, but not really. I'm reinvented is the way I kind of look at it. So how did I get here? I've been a serial entrepreneur most of my life. I've been focused on tech startups. I've founded and been involved with about 15 different companies, leading, cutting, bleeding edge kind of things. I consider myself as a disruptor. I'm a disruptor definitely in tech and new technology, bringing that kind of thing to market. I'm an author. This past year, I penned 4 or 5 different books. I've been a filmmaker. A pioneer. I've been a business process re-engineer, which is what I'm applying to the AI and helping companies today reinvent themselves and leverage technology. And that's kind of give you my background. I'm always really and have always been very interested in leading edge technology.
Well, let me ask you something, because I signed up for ChatGPT a while back, been using it fairly often, I can say several times a week. And I learned about Bard and Azure. So I went ahead and signed up for Bard, and I did comparison, same question, 2 different AI platforms. And I got roughly the same information, which I kind of expected. And I guess part of the deal is the AI has to learn a little bit about you. What are you really looking for, so that it can delve into that aspect or that focus and give you it. But then I signed up for Azure, and I watched a 20-minute video on how to do this and whatever. And by the time I got ready to ask the questions, they said I couldn't find anything. And then all of a sudden I got in a roundabout, and I said, "Oh, I can't do this. So let me just cancel my subscription," because I just signed up a couple hours ago. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't even figure out how to cancel. So I sent it to the help desk. I still haven't heard anything back. Mm-hmm. I mean, artificial intelligence is great, but sometimes I think the people who are setting it up expect a lot more out of the user's ability to start with than most of us have. Am I wrong in that?
Well, I mean, it's advancing so rapidly. I really was very fortunate to grab it last November, last year when it came out, and I've been working with it since then. And I've been able to manipulate it and get it to do the things I wanted to do. I've heard the same that you've said from others, that it's difficult, but now the advancement is that you can use natural language, and they also have text and speech recognition that can actually just speak into the chat and it will give you the answer. So it's really using natural language now, and you can put in text into your chat bot and ask it to convert it into an image. So it's really been, since it's come out, it's become more intuitive. And now there's even more technology that came out at CES this year. It's called Rabbit AI, and it's also an advancement that's going to change things in the world of AI. So it's going to be a new way that we interface with apps and the world. So that's what's happening. So there's no rails around the AI right now. So that's probably the biggest criticism. And there's bad actors, and so we don't know what we don't know. But in general, I found that for me, I've found a way to use it, manipulate it. It's helped me put the books that I put together this year in a fashion that I never expected before. It made me more efficient, and it took my ideas and it organized them for me, which was really a great help. So.
I noticed today the FCC banned using AI to generate, I guess, if somebody was John Wayne or whatever it may happen to be, voices for phone calls. But that's neither here nor there. Things are going to evolve legally down the road. But I noticed that I use it a lot in my books, particularly if I'm writing a blog. I'll put the whole blog in. I say, give me 10 headline titles for my article and keywords that I should consider. And blah, then I have it. And it usually turns out that I'll take 2 or 3 of the suggested headlines, combine them, plus or minus. And so I find it from an organizational perspective, very good for research, very good for telling me something. But then again, as you talked about common words, we have problems as authors. It says, edit this chat GPT. And I have 22 pages in a chapter. It takes us down to 2 paragraphs because it edited everything. And so then I learned, okay, fine, edit for grammar, edit for diction, edit for spelling. That it will do. But if I use the word proofread at a 7th grade level, I find it actually does a pretty good job.
Exactly.
But then if you ask it, what should I ask you in order to get a grammatical and whatever edit, then it's a paragraph, maybe 4 or 5 lines, and I copy that and I put it in there, and I get a pretty good review or edit on a book. So those that I find to be very useful. So yeah, it's a major time saver, but in conjunction with the sterileness of the AI, there's nothing in there that even looks like. I mean, yeah, it's nicely written, but it needs just a little bit of personal touch sometimes. Anyway,
right. 100%. So when I'm manipulating the bot, it's like, I want this in my voice. So then I tell it what my voice is about, what I'm empathy about, what I'm, mental health about, whatever I want it to know about me. I give it enough information about my voice, my views, and also, Python programming. I'm not a Python programmer by any stretch, but if you learn, you put your thoughts in brackets and in small bites, the engine is really able to digest that. And then I'll say, now write a letter in my voice, or write it in the name of John Wayne, or write it in the voice of Stephen Jobs. And so I can manipulate the bot in the way I want to do it. So if I want to have a legal response, write it in the name of F. Lee Bailey, And so I've learned to give it the voice that I want it to have, but particularly for my own voice and for my own writing. I'll give you another quick example. I also published a book on dystopia this year. It's a short 160 odd page book. I used Claude AI to help me do it. I had this thought around 11 years ago. I wrote it on paper, and then I found it in one of my folders, and I said, let me type this in and ask the bot for help. And it rejected me at first in what I wanted. It only gave me small bites and small paragraphs. I said, I know, I want to make this into a trilogy and so forth. So think ahead. And it started to do what I wanted. So I was able to put that book out in my first trilogy. First time I've ever really written a book. The books I wrote were for boomers, which is really what I was telling you about earlier. I'm really about promoting boomers. And as I said, I'm not retired, I'm reinvented. My boomer blueprint is what I've been helping people. We talk about mindset and we talk about the right diet. I know you're big on this and eating the right foods because we don't want to be in dis-ease. You know, these are things that I'm about, and helping boomers survive in this world that we're in today. So that's a lot of what I did. And honestly, the AI helped me organize, and I was able to put out 4 books. I did the Baby Boomer Guide to the Baby Boomer's Guide to the Creator Economy. And then I've had 3 additional books that have gone on to help people navigate and, you know, monetize their skills.
You use the word mindset. I think when we talked, you called it the biology of belief.
Yes.
And that mindset, it seems to change. We start getting in our 40s and 50s and our mind starts to shift. Then all of a sudden we get toward our 60s and, you know, are they going to retire me or am I going to retire? And how can I do it? Do I have enough? And then all of a sudden you end up in your 60s and then your 70s. And statistically, if you make 70, you'll make 80 from a actuarial perspective. I'm a little older than you. And so I'm seeing things change as we get through. And, you know, going up and down the stairs is not as easy as it used to be. There's just certain things that, you know, 5 years ago, I didn't have any specialists as far as doctors go. Now I have more than I care to mention. But things evolve. But our mindset, our brains are actually, they stay at about 24 years of age once they get that. But everything else changes, our mental health, our emotional health, our physical health. Let's talk about mindset for just a brief moment, and then we'll get down the road a little bit from there.
Sure, that it's really the biggest subject, and the biology belief is the name of a book that came from Bruce Lipton. So it really talks about at a cellular level how we got our belief systems. And basically, I'm not an expert in this, but what I read and understood from Lipton was that, you know, from 0 to 5, 0 to 6, everything is influenced by our parents and the environment that you're in, and then continually from 6 forward, you're affected every day by your experiential everyday life and your environment. So that shapes the way that we all think. And we have these belief systems that continue to support us, right or wrong. And we don't know whether they're right or wrong. So now you move to 40 years old or 50 years old and 60 years old, where you've had these various belief systems and you start to get, and for me, it was sort of midlife to start to look and say, these beliefs, are these really true? Another author that I've read recently that's really new in the scene, her name is Lisa Schremerhorn. She wrote a book called Every Belief is a Lie. And when you start to think about that is, you know, where did I get my belief system from? And so now this goes back to what we're majorly in the mindset. So in my books, I talk about the first thing in my books I address is mindset. Are you ready to fail? Are you ready to have a roller coaster ride? Are you ready to have self-doubt? Are you really ready to go through this? So even before you start to think about going into a new venture or whatever it is, you need to start to rethink and do you have the right mindset to navigate this? So that's my real bigger picture on mindset. And, you know, you can make up your new life by creating your new life. This is what, again, through meditation process and mindset. So you can basically, you know, reimagine your life. You can reimagine your mind by being open to it and letting your mind get open. And that's through the using of the meditation, which gets into the mental health platform that you referred to in the beginning.
Yeah, the mindset I find when I started Toastmasters, about 2007, I think, I was uncomfortable. I could take a 5-minute topic and really and truly just really concisely put it into 20 minutes. Now I can take a 20-minute topic and easily organize it and speak easily in 5. But part of that was, I don't want to forget this. I don't want to forget that. And all of a sudden, your brain is full of all the stuff that you don't want to do. And that's what you end up getting up there, and you try to memorize things and you get lost. But then I started thinking, I visualize myself, imagine myself getting all sorts of applauses and everything else, a pat on the back, well done, see yourself up there as number one. And all of a sudden, everything changed. I had the ability to remember things without having failure in the midst of it, because I knew that the end result was going to be an absolute success. And so as I'm preparing these things and I go through there, whether I'm in the car or standing around, I go through this mental process of setting my mindset for that particular speech that I'm giving. And I'll even wander around the room and kind of get an idea what people want. But the thing is that our mind is so complex that we don't understand how to talk to it. And once we start learning that little bit of stuff, what are the words that actually talk to our subconscious mind? That's when we really start to see some major advances in what we do.
100%, Red, you're spot on. When I studied with Joe Dispenza and started reading his books about 8 years ago, I mean, this is exactly right. The imagining it and seeing it and believing it in advance. And this is a part about clearing the mind. And it's also come back to the mindset issues again. Is like, I think I mentioned this to you briefly in our call. And, I've had the opportunity to be with folks that have talked about, being very anxious or being depressed. And I've had the great pleasure of actually helping people. And I'm not a professional in this, but I learned how to get centered and help people get centered. So we talk about anxiety, and what is that? Well, anxiety really is worrying about the future. And what is depression? Depression is really about the past. So if I look at you right now in the eyes and we're in the room together, or even this way, I'll ask you, are you okay this minute? And ask you to learn how to do breathing. And breathing is a whole part of centering. And this is not just me telling you. I've learned this through Joe Dispenza and reading the Buddha and things. These are techniques to help us with our mind and clear our mind, just as you just said it. Because, being the Toastmaster and getting in front of that audience is like, wait a minute, I'm going to imagine all these people are naked, right? Because I'm not, it gives you that ease, because you could be really uptight if you haven't done it. But like you said, when you start to understand yourself and you observe yourself and you understand your subject matter, it becomes very much like a fun, and you imagine the greatness and you imagine that applause, and guess what? It happens. I mean, that is exactly my experience as you've described it.
Yeah, the imagination that we have, our brain can't tell the difference between real and imagined. So if you failed 20 times at losing weight, well, all of those are stored right here, right front and center. And depending on what's going on, there may be some emotional involvement with that actually starts having flashing lights, so that anytime you want to do the same thing, your subconscious mind says, what? My prime directive is not allow anything to hurt you, no harm to come to you. It's there to protect you. That's why you touch that hot stove, you don't touch it a second, a third, and fourth time. So even though it's good for you, because you failed, that failure stays there. So you have to change the verbiage you're using in order to get to the part of the brain that has no experience. But if I imagine I lost weight on a diet and I really honed in on it and I added an emotion, the clapping and the winning of the trophies for losing the boat, then that becomes in competition to the other thoughts that are up there. And the brain says, is it real or is it not? And all of a sudden you end up with more imagined successes than you had real failures. And now you can change that little puppy around a little bit and start using it the way it should be used.
I agree with you. Again, another one, we can talk about, which is shame. People live with shame and guilt. And it's like, again, I say that's the past. Okay. You can give yourself and forgive yourself, be in the present, because that's what it is, a present. And this is where people get off, because exactly, again, I totally concur. Your mind starts to imagine the answer, and it may not be right. It may be the way you think you want it to end up. It's not necessarily going to be that, because you don't have control. So if you can work to let go, be in the present moment, stay in that, learn the breathing. These are things that have helped me ginormously. And listen, I didn't learn this. It took me a long time to get to this space. I fraught with a horrible divorce, and, see my kids, all kinds of things that people have in life. And just I've been able to evolve because I'm curious. I'm a critical thinker. Let me give you one other experience that I had recently. So part of the Boomer Blueprint is to show other boomers and anybody that they can really work in this new environment, this new economy, this new world, and do something, even if they're digitally challenged. So I actually took to this in a serious manner. And I said, if I was a boomer out there and I didn't have money, but I had a skill, what was I going to do? Most boomers, 60% of boomers don't have enough money. They're working on Social Security, so they're shy $1,000, $2,000 a month. So how can I help people go do this? So I decided, okay, I will show people how to do it. So I actually started Ubering for 1 year to make money every week to put into funding my business. I started my consulting practice. I started my t-shirt business, and I'm showing people that if you apply, focus, and great mindset, that you can do this too. And so my books are about guiding people through this path and showing you can do it. But I'm the real deal, showing you that you can get out there and do it. There's no excuses. So thank you for letting me share that. But that's how I'm rolling these days.
Okay, let's get into the part that we really need to talk about a little bit. That's the mental health aspect of it. You have an app for a phone, if I remember right, that as you're talking to somebody, it detects binaural notes or frequencies or whatever that gives you. I'm talking, but the part that we can't hear is this binaural part that an instrument can pick it up and give you information. Let's talk a little bit about the technology and what that really means as far as how your app works.
Okay, for sure. So this is a passion project of mine. I've been working on it for about 6 years. It started out with virtual reality headsets and doing meditation. And through many trials and tribulations, I was unable to get it really off the ground. A lot of competition, not enough funding, trials and tribulations of an entrepreneur and a startup. But here I am 6 years later, and I've been able to harness a couple of things. So VR aside and binaural beats aside, I'll explain what these mean. But we started out with how do you capture someone's emotion? So we use technology that's a vocal biomarker, and I'm able to determine in about 25 seconds what your emotional state is. So if you're happy, if you're sad, if you're stressed, or you're anxious, I'm able to tell by your voice. That's the first piece. The second piece is the binaural beats. The binaural beats are used in this way. So I do the test. I find out that I'm a 7 and I'm stressed. Go to the second part of the app, which recommends a binaural beat. Now, what's a binaural beat? Binaural beat is a hertz rate that you cannot hear to your human ear, but you can hear it because it's below the threshold. So it's a hertz, and you put in your right ear, as an example, 50 hertz and 60 hertz in the left ear. And because your brain is neuroplastic, which means it's flexible, your brain adjusts to the 55 in the middle. Now consider that your brain is like an electronic highway, and when you're stressed or anxious, that electronic highway has bumps in it. So when you add the binaural beats, it calms the highway, smooths the highway over. Then I'll have you come back into the app and test again, give me your voice again, and it will come back and say, Red, you're only a 2 now. So the binaural beats used to calm you down. Now the solving problem that this app solves is that there's a big gap between the time that you recognize that you have an issue to the time you're able to get treatment for it. So this is utilized to fill the gap between the time you're able to find a therapist for yourself. Keeps you calm in the midst of this. It also can be used in intake in a physician's office to screen for mental health, which in the US, only 4% of physician offices do this. It's also reimbursable to the doctor's office. So it befuddles me as to why the doctor's office don't do this on a regular basis. And this is a solution that would work on your phone or in your iPad in the office. So when you come in and do your office intake, you can easily do your capture of your voice, and the doctor could look at it and go, Michael, today you're a 7. What's going on with you? Do you need to talk with someone and so forth? So that's the 30,000 foot of this app. It's still in development, and I'm seeking a co-founder.
Could that be combined with body language, that the hidden facial expressions? Because if that was being captured at the same time with your phone as you're talking to the phone, Now you have not only the oral, but you also have the visual, because a lot of times we have micro expressions that most people can't see, just like we can't hear some things. But to me, that seems like a logical progression. Maybe, I don't know. Is that something you all thought about?
Absolutely. There's a roadmap with all of that in there, but it's like it's that, and there's also so many use cases for it as well. I mean, in the military, there's tremendous use case for PTSD. It's tremendous use case to use while people are in the field. It's tremendous for teens and young folks who are right now the biggest issue with mental health, suicidal ideation. I mean, these are things that I'm adamant about, that are problems, adamant about trying to fix if possible. The environment is very difficult to raise capital. Mental health is very crowded. But I've been encouraged by many people to keep going with this project, and I am.
Well, let me ask you, because if I have my voice recorded on AI, does that neutralize the binaural beats in the actual presentation of the voice? Can you tell the difference between an AI voice and a human voice?
So I can tell the difference. There's two different technologies. One is the voice capture and understanding the biometric of the voice print itself. And the binaural beats are the solution, if you will, on the other side. So they're two separate technologies. One is capturing, and then what's unique about what we've built here is that the algorithm interprets the voice print. And this is based on lots of science that we put into understanding the algorithm to interpret that this voice meant anger, or this voice print meant stress, or this meant depression, and so forth. So we were able to incorporate those together and come up with a solution. So I also know that a certain hertz rate addresses anxiety, or a certain hertz rate addresses depression or sleeplessness. So I don't want to be and can't be everything to all people, but I base this on 40 years of science and about 10 years of studying. I've had various consultants that have helped me get to this point. I had an MVP that was working up to May. I was very lucky. I got to study at University of New Hampshire, albeit it was too small. I only had 30 students to go through it, but we had a very high degree of efficacy, almost at 82%. So again, I've been rethinking and how I go back into the market with this product and idea, and that's what it is right now. It's still an idea.
Okay, well, we'll explore that just a little bit later. But when people are giving you, is it just like we're having a conversation right now over the phone and you can measure it? Or do you have somebody read a certain paragraph so that you have some standardization?
I tested both ways. It's kind of hard to be spontaneous and say, well, how do you feel today? Well, I got out of bed. I feel good. My life is good. And then you stop because you don't really know what to say. So we are toying with putting some prompts up onto the screen, say, how are you today? And if they pause, so we really need a voice print of about 20, 25 seconds to actually determine what your emotional state is at that time. And I actually need to do it 2 times. So this was a learning experience of going through with the students and making sure that it was user friendly, that it wasn't too encumbering. How long did you stay on? Apps are very funny because you can try it and then you don't stay with them. So there's what they call stickiness. And these are big issues and big problems to overcome. But if I have a solution that people think will work, I'm pursuing this.
What we say not only represents our body language, but as you say, it can lead into anxiety and other things.
Yes.
I had a mentor several years ago that his standard answer for how are you is excellent, as always. And I started adopting that. And it took me about 30 days where I could literally respond. If somebody says, how are you, Red? Excellent as always, or excellent as always. And it took me that long before it became natural. I wanted to say it. Before that, I used to say, well, if I wanted to screw with you a little bit, I'd say, well, somewhat reasonable was my standard answer for certain people. But as I got into excellent, as always, people hear it as opposed to, yeah, good. But they hear it and they respond back to me.
Yes.
And then on those 1 or 2 days a year where you're physically not up to it, if things going on, stress, who knows? And all of a sudden, how are you, Red? And excellent as always. And I could literally feel something going through my body.
Exactly.
And literally in about 10 seconds after I said that, I feel better than because my brain interpreted something that went through there that it heard. And the first time that happened, whoa. And the second time, okay. And the third time it became that, yeah, I'm generally pretty above normal, but occasionally we shift. And, I'll tell people, well, that's kind of neat. Well, they'll say, well, that's kind of neat. And I'll say, well, some days I'm better than that, because some days here's excellent, but some days, things are, I just had, I didn't have it, but we just had our first great grandson born about 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
A
congrats.
whole new adventure in our lives. So, we're kind of, and we actually had lunch with him yesterday. He didn't eat, he slept the whole time, but still the same. We had a chance to see him. So there are things that affect us, but it's not what happens, it's what we hold on to, as you well know, with stress. But as I'm saying those things, I'm wondering if I take this phone, and do I have the ability with this app to, okay, I'm a 7, I need to get to a 5. So I put the binaural beats on, boom, 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 boom. Now I do it again. Oh, I'm a 5. Does that have the ability for self-correction for people?
It does, because then again, back to what I was saying, if you start to get to that centered place where you learn the breathing, you start to not have the anxiety. It dissipates. You start to not think about the depression. I use the analogy of driving in the car in the rear view window. It's all behind you, right? In front of you, you have to just pay attention and be present, because you have no control of what's going to go on in the front or in the back. So stay present. And this is how that mindset starts to develop. The more that you hear from your own body that you're excellent, better than ever, your body and your mind becomes in sync with better than ever and excellent. So it works. I mean, the messaging is to your brain, and you can control the messaging. You can create the future. Not to get too complex, but you think about a matrix and the movie. You have your own matrix. You create it. You create your own movie, is what I always say. I'm glad to have you in my movie, Red. I mean, this is another part of my life. So it's a wonderful thing. It's a blessing.
Well, I may have misunderstood you just slightly when we were talking earlier that you go into a doctor's office and this is part of the test you have. But this is actually something an individual like myself can get the app and use it for self-improvement or self-diagnosis in some cases.
Yes. And that's the big trend of we're all taking care of ourselves. We have the telemedicine. I mean, to be able to have the doctor on the screen when I'm with you right now and look on the screen, to be able to say, get a voice print from me and say, and again, without, violating HIPAA or anyone's privacy, we built the app so it doesn't hold any information. It's all code, and, it makes it so you can be comfortable about putting your stuff in there. No one gets any of that data. And the same thing with if we were doing it on screen, none of that data is kept. But the toolkit is that I'm sitting talking with you on a telemedicine call, and you recognize something that comes across and go, Michael, you're a 7 today. Is there something you'd like to talk about? And then take it down even further, use it in the therapist's office where we're using text speech interpretation is coming across the screen, and I've color coded it. So Red, you're talking about your mother, and I noticed that you're a little bit anxious when you said that. Do you know that you said that? And it creates more effective, better therapy. So there's so many use cases, but I'm really focused in on, let me get the first one, PTSD, suicidal ideation. Those are my target audiences right now. And really looking for a co-founder, technical person that can help take this to the next level.
First thing came to my mind was a lie detector test. You keep taking this thing over and over again until you can pass a lie detector test.
You beat it. Yeah,
you can beat it because you've actually changed the way your body responds to a question.
Yes, exactly.
Which is what a lie detector test is detecting, is a response that's not normal.
Very similar idea, very similar from the technology. Yes.
Interesting. I wonder if our CIA and other places would be interested in that.
Well, they would be, and they've been using the lie detector technology for years. I mean, it's technology that's, proliferated, and it's used in call centers when people call in, and a call center operator can see that a person is agitated, So this is more common, but the algorithm that we built isn't common. The algorithm we built was based on taking scientific data and also correlating the binaural beats as the cure-all, because I know without my app that you can go onto YouTube and find binaural beats and put them on, and they'll help you. But I'm a diagnosis. Here's the problem, here's the solution. And so that's really what ours is more about. They're two separate. One is the voice print, and the other is the remediation with the binaural beats.
Now, if somebody say English is a second language, do you record them in their primary language?
I can do any language.
Okay. Now, if I decide to do a Russian accent, does that offset anything in there?
Nope. Not
Okay.
a thing. Not a thing.
Now, if I'm reading something as opposed to expounding from just ad lib, does that make a difference?
Nope. Not as long as I can just get you for 20 to 25 seconds.
Okay. Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And why is 25 seconds so critical?
Well, it started out that we thought in the first couple of iterations that we needed to capture it 6+ times, but then it became cumbersome, obviously, to use an app, and it's 25 seconds, and you got to pull it out of yourself. How are you today? Is okay. Well, how many times can I tell you how I am today? So what's the next subject matter? So these were things that we had to overcome in the questionnaires, and the questionnaires are related to the common standard psychological tests that are given now in paper. So we took those questions, we used the science against that, and used the binaural beat science against what remediates such, and built the algorithm. So if you were a 7, it recommends the binaural track that works at that level.
Ah, okay. So you're looking for money, for partners. What are you looking for to develop this app further?
Yeah, I'm looking for collaborator. I'm really looking for a technical officer that would like to become part of the startup itself and be a founder. That's really it. I mean, I don't need to be the COO of the company or the CEO. I'm happy to do that for now. My commitment is to make it happen. So if it required me to be in it full time, I would. It's just a matter of what's going to come down the pike. I would like to potentially collaborate with university again. I mean, a number of things that I'm fielding. And back to what we were talking about in the originally, just to make a circle of this, I've actually been able to use the Chat GPT to my advantage, and go into their store, and they have people and things that have made code bots to help you code. So I've gone into that and said, here's my stuff, and this is what it looks like. Can you help me? And it actually knocked out the various steps. It looked at what I had, and it knocked out the various steps of where it could improve. It told me the kind of coding I would need. And back to manipulating the baby again, I went back and said, okay, can you give me a snippet of code that looks like this? And then can you give me the next snippet of code? So it's giving me snippets of code, but Red, I am not a programmer. I don't know that it's ever going to work, but this is, my curiosity and my thinking is that maybe it could. So I really am looking for a technical co-founder at all best shots right now.
Okay, so this is your primary passion right now, and this evolved literally after you reached retirement age, 62, 65. So this is something that is totally new, and fellow baby boomers who are sitting there watching TV 18 hours a day, there is a world out there that maybe your passion can be prodded a little bit, and maybe you can only watch TV 8 hours a day because you're busy the other 8.
Absolutely. Using your mind. And something that's near and dear to you that we didn't get to touch so much on, we can another time, is the diet and, shopping in the middle aisle, and obesity and disease. And, if you're not proactive about your health, we all are going to suffer from disease, and it's part of our economy, and it's another conversation. But diet is also as important as mindset, and so is exercise. We all have heard this for years. And prevention, I know you're all about, why don't we fix the problem? And I'm so much of that. Same with you. It was so great to read about you and learn what you do. And I'm very much aligned with this whole, you can reinvent yourself. I mean, there's so many things that are out there for us as boomers, and anybody for that matter, to go out and be curious about and help the world and use what you've learned and help other people. This is what I grew up learning.
What's the best way for people to reach you?
So michaelwberman.com is the best way to reach me. I've got a calendar there, and I've got the other companies that I'm associated with. It's Green Path Consulting Group. So we do AI consulting there. I also have a t-shirt line, Demented T-shirts, which is, again, my way of show boomers that you can do this too. And here's one of my t-shirts. It's okay, boomer. So that's kind of my story. That's how you can reach me.
Well, thank you so very much, Michael. I appreciate your time today. And there are many shows, I think over 40 shows available on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And so there might be another one in there that you would be a perfect fit for. So just to give you a heads up on that.
Thank you.
And I'm looking at my clock now. We're just about at the end of our segment, and I appreciate your time. So have a wonderful day. And I'm going to leave the studio in about 2 minutes and head over to the other one for Talking Heads. today I hope to finish up optimizing your health for 2024. I think I can do it, almost like the little train who could, but it's a lot of stuff to go. If I don't get done, then I'll come back next week and summarize the whole thing. And I may do that anyway. But anyway, how do you optimize your health? And that's kind of what we've gone through, from mindset at the very, very beginning, get ourselves goal oriented, and then figure out how to actually achieve those goals. I'm wrapping up things today with regard to immune system and fat and weight management and healthy aging, those kinds of things. So we're wrapping everything up hopefully today on Talking Heads. Thank you very much for joining us today. Red.olaughlin on The Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Have a great one today. Bye now.
Hello, I'm children's author Diane Floyd-Bain, and I am co-host for several of the USA Global TV and radio shows. I joined because of the purpose of the USA Global TV and radio. They provide content for the viewers and listeners, an opportunity for people around the world to have their own show or even be a guest on an existing show. We truly believe in helping others get their positive message out to the world. We also have the opportunity for the listeners. You can watch on several platforms, and on YouTube, you can ask questions and even give a comment. We absolutely love it. I love being part of the USA Global TV and radio because I love positive messages, and who doesn't? And we need more of that in the world. We are a family, and we hope you will join us and become part of the family too.
This program is brought to you in part by the British School of Excellence and founder, Mr. Philip Sykes, building confidence, changing lives. Do you share our view that etiquette is a set of modern life skills that are essential for personal and professional success? Join us as an etiquette coach and change people's lives through the power of etiquette and manners.
The last few days have been really amazing. I had a trainer course from the British School of Etiquette.
And I must say it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made and one of the best investments I've made in my own training and development.
Now, words alone will not describe the transformation and the positive path that I have traveled with the British School of Etiquette.
I found I learned a lot from the lessons this time I came.
The last few days with the British School of Etiquette have been fantastic.
And what I've learned now is really beyond my expectations.
This is the most rewarding experience and the best investment I have made this year.
It was just great. I learned so much, and when I go back to Belgium I will incorporate a lot of it into my day-to-day life and business.
It's been absolutely wonderful for the whole week that we were here.
I feel transformed, and I feel like blowing a trumpet and tell people, come and do this school. This class is the best. This is the best school ever.
You should take it. It will change your life immediately.
I am now able to teach other people how to bring the best of them.
Thank you.
Thank you, BSc.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to our clients for their testimonials on the Train the Trainer program. Our exponential and global growth is so significant that we've evolved from the British School of Etiquette to the British School of Excellence, where we're investors in people. Let us invest in you and your career. Contact us to become an etiquette coach. Go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. Start your career and elevate your success today.